Well, one assistant coach, at least one assistant coach, has revolutionized the way the 49ers operate ever since he came aboard. And that was 3 seasons ago in 2019. And that is the man on the screen, Kris Kocurek, defensive line coach for the 49ers. He might be the best in the business. He might be the best D-line coach in the National Football League. Remember when Kocurek showed up in 2019, the 49ers also picked up Nick Bosa and D Ford. So he got a talent infusion. That was nice. Obviously, he benefited from that. But the 49ers defensive line turbocharged both in terms of its blue chip talent and in terms of its depth. And now, as we fast forward to 2022 with training camp starting in less than a week, we talk about strength in numbers on the 49ers defensive line. We talk about the fact that Kris Kocurek takes guys who have not seen success elsewhere. I remember Arden Key last year. Remember Kerry Hyder. Anytime that he hasn't been with Kris Kocurek, it hasn't been that good. Well, he takes those kind of guys and he gets them paid. He gets the 49ers Alpha, Bravo, and Turbo units. This comes in waves for the 49ers up front. He makes sure that production is coming from all corners of the roster. Take 2020 as an example. Nick Bosa tears his ACL week 1. D Ford only plays one game due to the back injury. So the 49ers lose a lot of their blue chip talent up front. That was coming off the offseason where they lost to Forrest Buckner with the trade over to Indianapolis. And still somehow, some way, the 49ers field a defense that's close to the top 5 and a defensive line that scrounges together production. I called it the Moneyball defensive line. Kris Kocurek was finding a way to make square pegs fit into round holes. So the man up on the screen is unequivocally one of the best D-line coaches in football, and he might be the best defensive line coach in football. And you know what was fun? This offseason program, I had a chance to talk to Kris Kocurek about the new look 49ers defensive line because they're deep this season, but they look a little bit different this season after a flurry of acquisitions this offseason. And Kocurek, as usual, was so insightful. He's this fiery head coach on the field, right? Or assistant coach on the field. You've seen all the videos from practice. More of them will start coming next week when I'm out there at training camp. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel right now. But you see that intensity that he brings. Well, when he's off the field, he's thoughtful, cerebral. He's able to flip a switch when he gets out onto the field. So that fiery competitiveness is balanced out by a very intellectual, methodical, intelligent look at the game. And I think that combination makes Kris Kocurek a great coach. So this is the article that came out on The Athletic today, catching up with Kris Kocurek, scouting the 49ers D-line, entering training camp. It's available at The Athletic. It is now in a link in the chat section. So go ahead and check that out. I think it's still $1 a month for The Athletic because this is 2,000 words with Kris Kocurek. This is meaty information about a lot of the 49ers' new acquisitions on the defensive line. And it's fun stuff. I think it's really worth the $1 a month, especially as we enter training camp here. Have a piece with Matt Barrows coming on Monday. And then we're going to be there as the 49ers report on Tuesday, July 26th. First practice is Wednesday, the 27th. So you could be sure there's going to be a lot of meaty content up on The Athletic. And of course, here as well. So go ahead, like this video, and subscribe to the channel. This is the link to the Kocurek article up on the screen. Check it out in the chat section, or if you're watching this not live, I'm going to pin it up in the comments section so you can go ahead and check it out. But I have a couple things to talk about. I talked to him about the frontline newcomers, right? The frontline newcomers, the guys that almost certainly, if they're going to be healthy, will make the 53-man roster. So, outside of the rookies, we talked a lot about Drake Jackson, but I know I've addressed him a lot in other videos. I'm going to focus on Kemoko, Turay, and Hassan Ridgeway, the pair of 27-year-old veterans that the 49ers signed this offseason. And Kocurek actually had some good insight on both of them. Turay is a lighter edge rushing type. He had 5.5 sacks with the Colts last year. He's explosive. He's fluid. In fact, when he was coming out of college back in 2016, Kris Kocurek really liked Kemoko Turay. And that was back when Kocurek was coaching the Lions. But you put on the film for Turay, and he's a guy that could really move. And, of course, the 49ers and the wide nine are going to want that athleticism on the edge. They're willing to sacrifice some of that prowess against the run, a little bit of size they're willing to sacrifice in order to get that speed. And, boy, Kemoko Turay may have that burst that the 49ers really like as a rotational edge rusher. Now, I mean, you have other options at that edge rusher position for the 49ers. Obviously, Sansom Ebukam is another player who sacrifices some size for real blue chip athleticism on the edge. So he's going to be one of those players. Jordan Willis, a little bit bigger. He's going to be in that edge rushing mix. And of course, the top draft pick for the 49ers this past season, Drake Jackson. I mean, the guy can do a standing backflip at 270 pounds. So you know that he has burst. You know that he has the athleticism to deliver what the 49ers want from a physical standpoint on the outside. Now we could see if he can combine all of the different factors, all the different puzzle pieces that you need to have success at the NFL level. So out of all of these guys that the 49ers will line up opposite Nick Bosa, they hope that at least one of them really shines through this year to take advantage of one-on-ones, because Bosa's the most double-teamed edge rusher in football. You're going to be able to feast. You're going to have the table set for you on the other side if you play for this 49ers team. So it's a matter of taking advantage of that set table and feasting on the one-on-one opportunities. So Turay is a player that the 49ers, and Kocurek, who's familiar with him from pre-draft studies back in 2016, they think he can fit. What about Hassan Ridgeway? Well, Ridgeway, this is even more interesting. Came out of Texas. Kris Kocurek, by the way, Texas guy. Not the Longhorns, but Kris Kocurek is from the state of Texas. But when he came out of Texas, same year as Kemoko Turay, Kris Kocurek was very, very enamored with him. He met with him before the NFL draft that season. He did his homework on Hassan Ridgeway. And now, by the way, this is more of a defensive tackle type. Ridgeway is 300 plus pounds. You talk about the lighter edge rushers and the athletic edge rushers that the 49ers want. Well, they're going to want some beef on the inside, because that wide nine stretches out the formation. Those guys have to play on islands. You need big-time block gobblers in the middle. And the 49ers lost one of those in free agency in DJ Jones. So there's a hell of a lot of pressure on Javon Kinlaw this offseason, or this season, right, coming off the ACL injury. But there's also going to be pressure on the supporting cast. And they really wanted to get a veteran out there to fortify that interior, because obviously Kinlaw still at least a little bit of a wild card, and you did lose DJ Jones. And Hassan Ridgeway, his history with Kocurek is so interesting, because Kocurek liked him back in 2016 when he was with Detroit. And then Kocurek has a mentor, a former D-line coach named Jim Washburn. Jim Washburn is the guy who described Kocurek to our own Matt Barrows of The Athletic as somebody who coaches like a raccoon on meth, right? The best description we've heard of Kris Kocurek to this point, he is a raccoon on meth on the practice field. Well, Jim Washburn is the godfather of the wide nine alignment up front, which is what the 49ers run, stretching out those defensive linemen, getting the ends way out there so they could work one-on-one against tackles. Jim Washburn's son, Jeremiah Washburn, is the director of player personnel for the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, where did Hassan Ridgeway play his prior years? The Philadelphia Eagles. So when free agency rolled around and it looked like Ridgeway would be available, Kris Kocurek called up Jeremiah Washburn, the son of his mentor, and got a good review on Hassan Ridgeway. That's why Hassan Ridgeway is now a San Francisco 49er. The front office respects the hell out of Kris Kocurek. John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, they always joke, hey, if Kris Kocurek comes to us and complains we're not giving him enough players, we're going to have a problem, because the 49ers are a rush over coverage team. They build that defensive line before anything else on that side of the football. And this goes back to John Lynch's playing days in Tampa Bay, where he had Warren Sapp and Simeon Rice in front of him during a Super Bowl run. John Lynch will note that it's a lot easier to play safety or defensive back when you're only counting 2 Mississippi instead of 3 or 4 Mississippi. He's said that many times, and that is relying on the pass rush. Pass rush gets to the quarterback quicker. The job is easier for the defensive backs. You see some teams that are more of coverage over rush, maybe the New England Patriots are one of those, but the 49ers have seen a lot of success with their rush over coverage philosophy. So they want to rush in waves. They don't want to lose gas as the game goes along. That's why players like Kemoko Turay and Hassan Ridgeway are so valuable. Let's take a look at what makes Kris Kocurek tick. Now, I put this up on my Twitter page so we can scroll down. This is one of the quotes from Kris Kocurek, and I think that it's absolutely worth sharing on the screen right here. Here it is. Make it a little bit bigger and have this stretch across the screen. Kris Kocurek, I'll leave you guys with this. I just wake up every morning and put my feet on the ground and say, I'm going to give it every single thing I've got from the second I get in there to the second I leave. I'm just going to pour everything I have into the players. Let them know that I'm going to be demanding of you. I'm going to ask a lot of you. I'm going to try to push you past limits that you may not think you can get past. But with all that said, I promise you that I have your best interests at heart. I want to help you reach your potential. I want to help you become the player that you envision in your head. I'm going to give you every single ounce of energy, effort, and knowledge that I have to try to help you become that player. Try to help them make as much money as they can in this league to help them financially for their families. Boom. That's what makes Kris Kocurek tick. Somebody could hire him as a life coach too. Probably cost a lot of money. But Kris Kocurek knows how to motivate players. He knows how to get guys paid. He got Kerry Hyder paid a couple of years ago. Hyder then got released by Seattle this past offseason. Hyder's back with the 49ers this year. Hyder's played for Kocurek and Detroit, 17 and 18, 49ers 2020, and again here for the 49ers in 2022. So again, if you want to check out the Kris Kocurek article, I have the link ready right here. I'm putting it in the chat section one more time. Make sure that you subscribe to The Athletic and check that out. There you go with the link. And why don't we talk about what I'm going to talk about later tonight? You obviously can subscribe to the channel right now. Make sure you do that. Don't just hit the like button because you got to be ready for some Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo discussion. It is patently ridiculous that some people are still peddling the notion that the 49ers somehow doubt Trey Lance. That's going around right now. The 49ers have done absolutely everything to signal that Trey Lance is their guy moving forward. I could sit here listing all that they've done for about 10 minutes and probably still not be finished. There, again, is absolutely zero evidence that the 49ers doubt Trey Lance. I'm not saying that Trey Lance is going to be great. The 49ers are happy to say we don't know exactly what's going to happen on the field because you don't know with any NFL player, especially a young quarterback. But they have invested so much and they believe in this number 3 draft pick, and they're obviously ready to give him the reins here in the 2022 season. So, it's not going to be a rant. I'm going to talk a little bit about this. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about the Jimmy Garoppolo trade situation. I think the main thing to remember is you shouldn't conflate the two. Just because the 49ers haven't been able to trade Jimmy Garoppolo yet, that has nothing to do with their belief or lack thereof in Trey Lance. And there's a lot of clickbaiting, conflation of those two, and those two should not be conflated. So subscribe and tune in tonight. That's what we're going to talk about. And while you're at it, go ahead and check out that article on Kris Kocurek, who I think might be the best defensive line coach in football. All right, everybody. Thank you. We'll talk to you all soon.